Good afternoon, good noon. My name is Marunal Sisodia. I'm the East of England Steering Group member for the National Network of Parent Carer Forums, and welcome to this Contact and NNPCF webinar. I'll let Maureen introduce herself.
Hello, my name is Maureen Morris and I'm the North East and Cumbria rep for the National Network and also the other co-chair.
So welcome to this webinar today. I'm going to go to do the housekeeping, which is Maureen and I are actually sitting some 300 and something miles apart, so we're co-presenting remotely. So if there are some technical hitches, please bear with us, and hopefully you can see this introduction slide. As we've got a number of attendees today, you won't be able to ask questions as we go using your voice, but what you can do is there's a toolbar at the bottom of the screen that allows you to click on that and register questions with the webinar administrator, and she will pass them on to us. So please ask questions as you go, and what we will do is we'll turn to them at the end of the webinar and go through them all and ask them. And it is actually helpful if you post your questions as we're going along. Questions that aren't covered in the time that we've got for the webinar itself, then you can always email us, and at the webinar a very short survey will launch. It's really helpful to us if you just take the time to complete the survey. Thank you. So off we go. This is an NNPCF strategy update ahead of our annual conference, which is next month. Maureen and I thought it would be a good opportunity for us to share some of the work we'll be doing, particularly around the setup of the community interest company that we voted for at the end of last year's conference. But also, very importantly, there's some decisions that we felt that the steering group was not the right group to make, that we felt that we should put out to our membership again. And so there's some very important conference motions that we'd like to brief you on. And that's really the purpose of this webinar, to give you an update of where we are, share with you some of the work that we've done this year, and then make sure that you're fully briefed on the decisions that we're asking our membership to make.
The vision and mission motions that we passed in 2017 were quite unequivocal. You agreed that we would adopt the following vision and mission, which is the National Network of Parent Carer Forums as the independent national voice of parent carer forums, and our mission is to deliver better outcomes for families living with special educational needs and disabilities. We aim to create a culture of participation and co-production across education, health and social care and the voluntary sector. We empower our members, which is the member forums, to ensure that their voices are heard at local, regional and national level, and we inspire our partners by sharing good practice and knowledge. And our vision is to send the best possible opportunities and futures for all children and young people with SEND and their families. And as you can see, there was very few people who voted against that. And so that was voted last year at the conference. So we agreed last year that we should set up a new community interest company, or a KIC. Again, that was voted quite overwhelmingly. And do we agree that the Parent Carer Forum should agree with the NNPCF to transfer its operations to? Overwhelming. Do the Parent Carer Forums authorise the NNPCF to set up the KIC? Which was again overwhelming. And do we authorise the NNPCF steering group to transfer PCF to the new KIC? And that's what we agreed, and we have done quite a lot of work towards it, but there are a couple of things that we just felt were either important enough for you to have a vote again, or something that it looks better if you vote for it rather than their steering group members do.
So just to provide you a little bit of a recap of around those decisions that we made last year, just to make sure we're all starting from the same place. So firstly, why did we all agree last year that we needed a separate legal entity? Well, there were three reasons really. Firstly, our vision and mission states very clearly that we're the independent voice of parent carer forums, and our key stakeholders think of us as being an independent organisation. In reality, legally, we're not at the moment. We're effectively a constituted group that's a part of Contact. Now, we have no issue with being a part of Contact. We have a very good relationship with Contact, but the fact of the matter is our legal structure doesn't actually reflect what our vision and mission says we are and the way in which our key stakeholders think about us. Next up, there was some HMRC guidance, so taxman guidance that requires us now to be employees. Previously, steering group members were paid a small honorarium, but the advice we've had from the taxman says that we can no longer do this, that we've got to actually be paid using more conventional methods. We need a separate legal entity to be able to employ people. Thirdly, being an independent organisation gives us more control about who we do business with and how we do business with them. Currently, we're a part of the contract awarded by the DFE, and we have little control over who runs that contract or how we define our relationships with them. We are very fortunate in that, we are sheltered in a very good relationship and a very co-productive relationship with Contact at the moment. So this is not an issue, but in the future, if a different organisation were to win the contract, we feel that we need to have more agency in defining what those relationships are. Next up on the recap is, why do we choose to be a CIC and not a charity? The key factor here is that we believe the NNPCF needs to be run by parent carers that are drawn from our membership. In order to make sure that we're able to draw from the widest possible pool, we feel it's appropriate that we offer remuneration to our steering group members. So they essentially get paid for the time they put in. Now, because it's a significant amount of time we're asking people to put into the NNPCF as a steering group member, for example, this year we're budgeting for 30 days per steering group member, we think it's important that we pay them. And the reason for that is so that we can draw from the widest possible pool. The danger with relying on volunteers is that we rely upon people who can afford to be volunteers. And we want to make sure that we are as diverse and as inclusive as possible. So that was the key reason why we chose to be a CIC rather than a charity. There are also some other constraints around charity activities which potentially would have been a concern for us in the long term, particularly regarding the restrictions on charities in campaigning and lobbying. Now, the NNPCF does not campaign and it does not lobby, but there may be a point in the future where we, as the whole membership, decides that they want to change that. And also, probably more significantly, the Charity Commission is constantly moving the goalposts when it comes to what it defines as campaigning and lobbying. And we just didn't want to get caught in that. So, what have we done since the conference last year? What progress have we made against this? Well, the first thing that we did was that before we did any work at all, we decided to lay out some principles around our new structure. So very much taking the view that the legal structure is just the shell for the NNPCF, but the legal structure has to reflect what we're really about and what's really important to us. So our principles in this exercise were based upon our vision and mission, which was co-produced with you, and the vision and mission lays out who we are, what we do, and why we do it. We also then added some very common sense practical considerations to the principles. And Maureen's going to take you through them.
Yeah, and then we went on and made some decisions. The principles are that we are independent, we are the NNPCF decision making and a voice that can't be controlled by any other organisation. We are currently not controlled by Contact in any way, shape or form. I'm sure they wish they had a little. You have the final say, the big decisions that we've done. We are run by parent carers. all the key operational decisions are made by representative parent carers, just as they are in your own forums. Co-production is another founding principle, and this enables a good working relationship with the key stakeholders, especially the DFE contract holder, which currently is Contact. Another founding principle is that we keep things simple and keep the costs down. And a separate legal entity means some extra costs, but we have to keep them down. And it also future-proofs us against any change in whether we can help at that change or not. And based on that, we've made some decisions. What sort of company we should be, how do we preserve and strengthen the current rights of the member forums, when should we do it, and a few smaller decisions as well. But the first three are most important.
We've made the decision that we will be a company limited by guarantee. So a company offers us limited liability, which essentially means that if the company fails, the owners only lose a fixed amount of money. And there's two ways in which a company can set up limited liability. There's limited by shares and limited by guarantee. The characteristics of a company limited by shares are that it is owned by shareholders. Each shareholder owns shares. Typically, companies that are limited by shares are run for commercial purposes, and critically, companies limited by shares can allow profits to be distributed to the owners using dividends. Now, that doesn't sound a lot like the NNPCF. Companies limited by guarantee is owned by its guarantors, and I'll say more about that in a moment. Each guarantor promises to provide a fixed amount of money if the company goes bust. Its profits cannot be distributed. They have to stay within the company. And typically, companies limited by guarantee are used for not-for-profit activities. So that gives us a very strong steer indeed that the NNPCF CIC will be a company limited by guarantee. And that's a decision that we've made already as a steering group. Next up, we will be seeking to preserve the existing rights of forums. So our current articles, our current constitution, as the NNPCF, we're a constituted group, lays out some rights and privileges of being a member of the NNPCF. What we will do is we will bake these existing rights into our new articles of association. So by becoming a CIC, to be absolutely clear, the membership will not lose any of its existing rights. So what does our existing constitution say? And please, if you need to refer, if you want to go and have a look at the constitution, please do. But here's a summary. Section 5 says that we have a requirement to hold regional meetings and for steering group members to seek feedback from regional meetings. Section 6 talks about ensuring that the agenda for our steering group meetings and the activities of the NNPCF is driven by the issues and concerns of local and regional forums. Section 8 outlines our annual general meeting rules. Section 9 outlines special general meeting rules. And Section 11 outlines how we have to make changes to the Constitution, which are essentially that we have to go back to our membership. All of those rights will be preserved and enshrined in our new Articles of Association. However, we actually think that this is an opportunity for us to go further, because our existing Constitution, whilst it enshrines some very specific rights around the involvement of members, doesn't actually go as far as we'd like when it comes to being membership led. So we're going to add some additional clauses to our Articles of Association that will state that any of the big decisions that we have to make around our strategy and our direction have to be made by our membership. So any big decisions that change the nature of the NNPCF or our strategy or where we're going have to be put to a vote of our membership, and we will add those rights into the new Articles of Association for the CIC. So we see this as an opportunity not only to strengthen, not only to enshrine our existing rights, but also to strengthen the rights that members have over the NNPCF. talking about timing, we have decided in around the timing of the setting up of the new CIC, which will be done in and around December 2019. The reason for that is that the next DFE contract for strategic participation is due to be re-tendered or will roll in April 2020. And we basically want to be in a position for the new NNPCF legal entity to be a part of that new contract. The reason why we're taking a little bit of time around this is it actually saves a bit of time and effort, because it means that we don't have to put in place a new subcontract for the existing contract that we're running under now. And secondly, there's no urgency around this. There's no burning platform for us to do it this year. So we have got the luxury of time, so we're going to take it and make sure we get it right. We've also made some other decisions, which are pretty small decisions, largely administrative in nature. So some examples of those decisions should be, we have to decide whether we use the suffix CIC or community interest company. We're going to use CIC simply because it's fewer letters. Should we have the opportunity to prescribe the geographical area that we cover? For example, the NNPCF current constitution says England, or do we leave it open? Well, we've decided to leave it open because we already have affiliate members. With a CIC, we need to decide what happens if the company is wound up and who gets any leftover funds if the NNPCF is wound up. And we've made the decision that any additional funds that we have in the event of us being wound up will go to Contact. And how should we word our objects clause in the Articles of Association? And we've made the decision that we can and will use our vision and mission statement, which was voted on by our membership last year. So
apologies, I am back apparently.
Okay, great, Maureen. Should I carry on with this slide and then hand over to you?
Yeah.
So
please do, yes.
There are two decisions that we feel that we should ask our membership to make, and these are pretty fundamental to the setup of the NNPCF. So very much in line with what we spoke about earlier about making sure that the big decisions are made by our members. We feel these two are big decisions, and it's appropriate that our membership made them. So the first is, should the NNPCF community interest company adopt a small or large membership model? And the second is, should the NNPCF steering group members be appointed for a 3 or a 4-year term of office? And we'll tackle each one of those in turn. So, firstly, the large or small membership model. A little bit of background here. Again, there are two models that you could adopt as a company limited by guarantee. The first is a small membership model. In this model, all of the directors of the company, which is in our case, effectively the steering group members, act as guarantors. That means that they have to pay an agreed sum, and it's usually £1, if the NNPCF finds itself in financial difficulties. So each one of the steering group members would be a guarantor of the NNPCF for the grand sum of £1. As the steering group changes, so as steering group members step down, they will be taken off the list of guarantors, and as new steering group members join, they will be added to the list of guarantors. The second option is the large membership model. In this model, local parent care reforms would be acting as guarantors of the NNPCF, and so all parent care reforms would need to agree to pay a sum if the NNPCF were to find itself in financial difficulties. Now, in order to make the decision around which one of these models we adopt, we reviewed these options against our principles, and we also took some soundings from regional steering group members and local forums as well. And based on that, we are making a very strong recommendation that we adopt a small membership model. And let me step through that for you, going through our principles. The first principle of independence, it doesn't make a difference whether we're a small or large membership model. The second principle of being member-led. Now, on the face of it, a large membership model gives the membership more rights because they are actually the owners of the organisation. However, and that was our original starting point. We felt that we should be a large membership model. However, after taking soundings, it became very clear that some forums were uncomfortable being legal guarantors of the NNPCF, that they either felt that they weren't ready to take that step, or felt that they needed to take more advice, or weren't ready to come on that journey with us, particularly those forums that are relatively new or have a quite fragile setup. And so that drove us very strongly to saying we should adopt a small membership model, because I think it's very important that we do not end up with a two-tier membership. Everybody has to have equal rights when it comes to, all of our member forums have to have equal rights when it comes to their influence over the NNPCF and the future of the NNPCF, regardless of whether they're a well-established, well-funded, separate legal entity, a charity or a KIC, or are literally a small group that meets in people's front rooms and are just finding their feet. We wanted to make sure that everybody had an equal voice. Each member forum had an equal voice. And because we're baking in additional rights into our Articles of Association that I spoke about earlier, we are very comfortable recommending a small membership model, because we think that is the right way to do, because it's the most inclusive way to go. The next principle, which is that it's run by parent carers, both membership models tick that. Co-production, again, both membership models tick that. When it comes to simplicity and cost, a small membership model is significantly easier to administer and to run, and so that drives us again towards a small membership model. And both models have the same future-proofing ability. In summary, more.
Yeah, in view of that, in view of those things that Muna has talked about, we are strongly recommending that we set up as a small membership model, and that will be the first of the decisions that we're asking you to make by survey, as you have done last year as well. So we're saying particularly small parent carer forums are uncomfortable about this, as Murnal said, and sometimes as well, if the forum itself is not the grant holder, that was an added complication. Either the grant holder was a separate organisation, that was difficult as well. That was another further reason. So we are strong that we do it as a small membership model.
Thank you. We're back. Okay.
And the next one.
Next one. So the next decision we're asking our members to make is, should the NNPCF steering group members be appointed for a 3 or a 4-year term of office? So our current constitution states that steering group members are appointed for a 3-year term of office. Steering group members can serve a maximum of 2 consecutive terms, which, if my year 4 maths is correct, adds up to 6 years in post. We are considering whether we should change that to each term of office being 4 years, and this would mean a maximum of 8 years in post for steering group members. We recognise that there are pros and cons to this, and when we've had the discussion in steering group, each individual steering group member has recognised that there's a case for making the change, and there's also a case for leaving things as they are. We also believe it's inappropriate for the steering group to make this decision, because essentially it is about our own terms of office. So this is something that we are putting out to our members. So in this case, we aren't making a recommendation around this. We are just putting this out there as an open vote, and what we would like our members to decide.
And the advantages are that current and previous steering group members, when we've done a straw poll, have commented that they're just beginning to understand and contribute to the NNPCF when their term comes up for renewal. It takes a while for you to be able to understand all the nuances of what it is that's going on. So a second advantage is it allows for greater stability, retention of knowledge and succession planning. You've got a better chance of making things through. And most of the forums, the local forums that we asked, don't have fixed or maximum terms. The disadvantages, 4 years and 2 terms of 8 years is a long time. And will a longer term mean fewer opportunities for the members who want to be steering group? If somebody has just come on in your region to a steering group, then they're potentially there for 8 years, certainly for 4 years, and that may be your opportunity is gone. And also a longer term could mean that steering group members become disconnected from their local forum. So that was the 3 disadvantages that we thought. But as Mel has already said, we are not making a recommendation for this, and it's entirely up to the member forums to make that decision. And that will be the second decision that we're asking you to make.
Okay. Next step. We would very much like you to vote on these 2 conference motions ahead of the conference itself. I've put the link up there of where you can vote. Don't worry, don't feel the need to scribble that down as we are going to be sending a briefing paper out to all forums later today that will have the link on it. The briefing paper also takes you through a lot of the arguments and the facts that Maureen and I have been through today, so that you can brief your local forums and make a decision in conjunction with your members as well. Voting opens from today, that's the 17th of October if you're watching this on a recorded webinar, and will remain open till the 16th of November. So that's essentially the weekend before our conference. We believe it's really important that big decisions are made by a membership, and we'd really encourage you to make sure you participate in making those decisions and helping to shape the future of the NNPCF. I'll open up the questions if there are any. Okay. In that case, what I'll do is we'll close the webinar. If you do have any subsequent thoughts or questions, you can contact either Maureen or myself. You know where we are, or you can contact your regional steering group member. And as I said, later on today, we will be sending out some briefing papers on this topic, so that you can you've got those details to hand when you have those conversations with your members. So thank you for attending. Apologies for the technical hitches. And thank you for bearing with us. And with that, I would say thank you and close the webinar.